All right, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome to the CRD Connect and Communicate webinar series. My name is Elliot Rose and I am a STEM librarian at the University Park at Penn State. Today's session is AI Literacy for Faculty and it's presented by Dr. Elisabeth Davis, an instructional librarian at Lycoming College. While we often discuss AI literacy for students, faculty still require the same conversation and learning skills. Dr. Davis, sorry, I am accepting people while we're going through this. Dr. Davis will discuss various AI literacy sessions that can be held that involve faculty engagement and also suggest partnerships which librarians can make through these sessions. So for today's presentation, as you can probably tell, you will only need a headset or speakers, and we encourage you to ask questions using the chat. We are recording this session, and once it has been captioned, it will be uploaded to the PALA Connect and Communicate blog page. So if you would like to have your camera off, you're welcome to do so. Otherwise, we'll be happy to see your faces. This session is brought to you by the Pennsylvania Library Association College and Research Division's Connect and Communicate series. And if you're interested in being involved or learning more about this initiative or joining this committee, please let me know anytime. I am now done talking and I'm going to go ahead and pass it on to our presenter.
Great, thank you very much, and thank you all for having me here today. I am going to apologize. My computer's a little persnickety, so I won't see anything in the chat until after I'm done presenting, but I swear once I'm done presenting, I'll be able to pull the chat up and look at questions, so I apologize in advance. So I want to give you an overview of what I'll be talking about today, like every good instructional librarian. I wanted to give us a definition, or maybe a definition, of what is AI literacy. And then I'll introduce you to me, give a quick literature overview, and then talk about how to approach AI literacy for faculty and the connections as librarians we can make. So I don't know about you all, but sometimes it feels like the idea of AI literacy is very broad. And depending on who you ask, it really can vary. There's one definition by Leo Lowe that suggests that AI literacy is, quote, the ability to understand, use, and critically think about AI technologies and their impact on society, ethics, and everyday life. This broad definition encompasses several interconnected components, each essential for developing well-rounded understandings of AI. Lowe then thinks about AI literacy within the libraries and says that AI literacy has two key elements. First, effectively incorporating AI tools into library services and daily operations. But, and what I think is more important, empowering librarians to serve as educators, quote, guiding patrons to critically evaluate and responsibly interact with AI-driven systems, fostering informed and ethical engagement. And for me, that's kind of what AI literacy should be and what our role as librarians should be with AI literacy, more than integrating AI into our library systems, which is already happening, as all of you know. So the ACRL has come up with AI competencies for librarians. And these are, I really like these competencies because they kind of flip what Lowe has said. Low value starts off by saying, okay, we need professional development and effectively using AI tools. And then we'll think about these critical aspects versus the AI competencies, which start off with ethical considerations and then go to use and application. And I really, really love the ACRL's AI competencies. And I think these are a major component of AI literacy, and they should be the ones driving us as a community and as a profession. So the ACRL suggests that the AI competencies, and for me, AI literacy, should consider the ethics behind AI, should have a knowledge and understanding of AI, looking at understanding, evaluation of LLMs and AI systems. Should be able to evaluate and analyze LLMs, AI systems within libraries and societies, and then use and apply these systems and not just use them, but develop strategies for use. I just read something today, I actually believe it was put out by the ACRL, that was saying how students and people in general are turning to LLMs more often to search for information than they are going to the libraries. So now we need to think about, well, how do we effectively use these systems? So in my mind, the ACRL's competencies really help us come up with an idea of what should AI literacy look like. Thinking about the ethics of AI, thinking about understanding and keeping up to date with different AI systems, these LLMs that are out there, analyzing and evaluating these systems, and then being able to use them in general. Which brings you to me. I am the coordinator of digital experience, along with being one of the um, instructional librarians at Lycoming College. And my joke is that as the coordinator of digital experience, I'm also the emerging technologies librarian. One of the things that I took on when I started my position was really becoming AI literate. I knew enough to get myself in trouble. I knew enough to prompt. And for me, that's not AI literacy. And so I spent a lot of time learning about LLMs and learning about AI in general and taking the ACRL's AI competencies and really going through each step of these competencies to be able to critically evaluate LLMs, AI systems, both within library systems and more broadly. And so I offer a variety of AI literacy sessions for faculty and for students. And this AI literacy has become a little bit of a crusade for me at my college, and it really drives my conversations with faculty that I'll talk about more in a moment, but also my position here at the college. So, for example, I am on a committee where it is the Information Technology Committee, and I was the author of the first 7 drafts of the AI policy, which became the AI guidelines on what should be the guidelines for AI usage at our college, which for those of you who are in Pennsylvania, are part of middle states, and you listed in Pennsylvania, and like, wait, that's wrong. If you're part of middle states for accreditation, middle states is actually requiring you to have an AI policy or have AI guidelines. And so because I had spent a good bit of time learning about AI, I wrote the first 7 drafts and then was on the committee that finalized the drafts of the policy and guidelines. And so for me, because of my role as coordinator of digital experience, in addition to being an instructional librarian, it really, this idea of AI literacy really drives my advocacy of understanding LLMs and thinking very, very critically about them. And one thing that I've noticed a lot of is that faculty are not really AI literate. And this is something that we see in the literature and in the literature reviews. The literature really shows that faculty are actively adopting and using AI. But when we talk about AI literacy, people aren't doing too much with that. They're focusing more on student literacy versus faculty literacy. And librarians have started to help with that. They're collaborating with teaching and learning centers or working with faculty to develop these literacies. One study actually suggested that there are set skills, set dimensions of AI literacy for faculty. And it starts off with core skills and moves up through professional growth. So core skills are defined as prompt engineering and understanding AI algorithms. And from my experience, this is what faculty kind of do really well with. They can prompt engineer. They may not understand how an AI algorithm works or the model's limitations, but they can prompt engineer really, really well. The next level of AI literacy would be pedagogy. So understanding how AI can enhance the learning experience and help design assignments and assessments. And from my experience, most faculty are not fully there. They are starting to incorporate AI into different learning experiences, particularly into how students might do brainstorming or having students actively engage with an AI and analyze it, but they're not really creating their own form of pedagogy using AI. The third tier of AI literacy, if you will, would be evaluating AI outputs for biases, ethics, factual accuracies, and appropriateness. And from my experience, faculty, it really depends which disciplines they're in. Some of the disciplines are not actually doing this. They're just going, oh, this looks right, and going forward. Others are much more critical and thinking about biases, particularly disciplines that are in the humanities. But some of the other disciplines are less likely to really trying to think about what are the biases or the factual accuracies. And my impression is it's because they don't understand the AI model limitations or the algorithms, which goes back to the core skill. The fourth level of the AI literacy for faculty model would be to understand the data ethics, privacy concerns, and institutional compliance. At the school I'm at, we just finalized the AI guidelines, which have to go to the board of trustees. So it is not fully finalized, but from our perspective, we've written it. It is now going out into the ether. Hopefully, it will not be sent back to us. But there hasn't been this idea of institutional compliance yet. A lot of what I see too is faculty haven't really thought about the privacy concerns or the data ethics that go into AI, particularly in how materials used, and I'll talk about that a bit more. And then the final tier of AI literacy is continuous growth and learning more and more. Some faculty are keeping up with this, but many faculty are still talking about LLMs the way they were proposed about 2-3 years ago versus what are some of the recent updates. So from my experience, the themes that I'm seeing is that a lot of the faculty may know one or two bots, tool-centric almost, and they'll know how to prompt engineer for these one or two bots, usually ones that are very popular in the news, ChatGPT, for example. But they don't know anything really outside of that. So I don't see a lot of faculty who know Claude or Notebook LLM or some of the more LLMs that are really designated for education. They've never heard of these before. And they're always a little surprised by, wait, what? This exists outside of GPT or Copilot? Yeah, it does. And we have that conversation. They also, from my experience, often don't know how LLMs work or especially the training that goes into them. I do a lot of conversations with students where we bring up an AI overview and I have students trace where the AI overview is getting its information. And the faculty are actually always very surprised. They go, wait, what? They don't realize how the LLMs are being trained. And I have them go through this in the upper divisions in different LLMs like GPT, Copilot, Claude, etc. Faculty often are not aware of the environmental impact of LLMs, and this is something that I bring up in conversations, etc., or in sessions that I do. And then they also don't realize some of the ethical considerations, particularly copyright. So faculty, unfortunately, will tell students, oh, just upload your this paper to ChatGPT, and not realizing, well, that paper's under copyright, and we have to consider that through there. So if we were to look at this AI literacy, most faculty would be sort of competent in prompt engineering. But when we look at AI literacy overall, they really, from my experience at least, often are lacking some of the other core foundations and core dimensions of it. I feel like I should be in a classroom and going, okay, any questions? So I want to give you some examples of what I've done with this to try and work on AI literacy. And this is looking at AI checkers. So I don't know if you guys are familiar with this, but there are a lot of products out there that will say, oh, well, run a student paper through this software and will tell you if it was written by AI or not. And my favorite example is someone ran the Declaration of Independence through one of these AI checkers, and apparently it was written by AI. Surprise! um, these AI checkers are actually just um, they're not reliable. The New York Times did a really great study where they would have GPT write something, and then it would run it through GPT and say, well, was this written through AI? And then GPT had literally just written it. And it would say, no, it wasn't. Or it would run the same thing that GPT wrote through an AI checker and would say, no, it wasn't. Or it would say everything was written by an AI checker. AI checkers just aren't very helpful. But what faculty were doing was they'd come across student work and run it through an AI checker without thinking about, oh, wait, no, I probably shouldn't do this. First, under FERPA, I really probably should not be running student work through an AI checker because it is covered under federal law, and they were not taking identifying information away from the papers. They were just running it straight through, which is a FERPA violation. They were also just taking the checker and saying, well, obviously the checker says it was 100% AI, and then, and then failing the student. And then students were complaining. It was not a good situation. So I collaborated with the head of teaching effectiveness to create a faculty panel. And I reached out to faculty with whom I'd had conversations in the past on use of AI checkers. And so these were faculty who had used AI checkers and knew they don't really work. And so rather than me just standing there and saying, hey guys, don't use an AI checker, because faculty probably wouldn't appreciate that, we had a conversation in which I think there were 6 of us across the board, and I was on the panel as well, sat down and we're talking about this. And so talking about how do AI checkers work, and that's really where I came in to walk us through the LLMs and what is the AI checker doing, how does an LLM work, etc. And then have the faculty talk about, well, if you suspect AI usage, what should you do instead of using an AI checker? Because you should not be running student work through that. Please do not download a paper and run it through. That's a FERPA violation. Don't take it for granted. Here are other ways to approach it, and using it as a teaching moment. And so it became a conversation where we had about 20 people across campus attend this, including the people who were on the panel. And we had the provost come to provide some insight as well. And it became a really good moment where we could all sit down and say, okay, let's everyone on the same page. Let's talk about how an LLM works, how an AI checker works, the training that goes into it, what are previous studies shown on it, et cetera. And then how do we actually approach possible AI usage in campus? And it worked really, really well. And it was a great way where I could reach out to faculty and have follow-up conversations. And I actually had a lot of faculty email me afterwards, and we sat down and had these conversations on how the AI checkers work and following up with some of those conversations. Another example I want to give actually looks more at the classroom, because I don't know about you guys, but often if I'm asked to go into the classroom and talk about AI literacy, the conversation really is, we just want you to talk about how to prompt effectively, which you can watch a 10-minute video online and figure out how to prompt effectively. And so when a faculty member asks me to do that, I will actually say, okay, could we take a step back from this? Can I talk about how LLMs are trained? Can I talk about all of these different things that you have to think about with it? Can we talk about the different LLMs that are out there that your students might be using Copilot or they might be using ChatGPT, but there are other ones out there? Can we talk about AI ethics? Can we talk about the copyright considerations? Can we talk about how to cite? Because as you guys all probably know, the MLA, the APA, all of them now have citation guides for citing AI generated material and conversations with AI. And so whenever I'm approached with this, the faculty will, when I say approach it as, well, can we explore it a bit more? Because students can find this out by watching a 10-minute video. And I will present my training, my materials in class. I'll present my PowerPoint so they can see where I'm going with it. And the faculty are usually very, very accommodating. They'll say, oh, sure, yeah, you can cover all of that. And across the board, every single time, the faculty member will say, oh, I didn't know that. So I was in a business class, and the faculty member had said, yeah, I know how to use AI. I'm really comfortable with AI. And then I went into the training models of how the different LLMs are trained. And the faculty member went, wait, what? They were really surprised, especially with early GPT, for example, was trained off Reddit and Wikipedia. And the faculty member went, wait, what? They were very, very surprised about this. They didn't realize it. When I talked about how the material is, I'm going to use the term produced, even though it's not produced, it's a statistical probability, the LLMs. The faculty member was so surprised about that. When I talked about, okay, if you want to engage with a secondary source and use it kind of as a learning tool, well, here are different LLMs out there that you can do so safely without violating copyright. The faculty member had never heard of Notebook LLM or Cite or anything like that. They had just thought, oh, I can upload this to GPT. It's all fine. Well, no, because unless you put it into privacy mode, it will be used in training material for GPT or Claude or Copilot, etc. And so one of the big things was the faculty member really had not known any of this. They just had thought, oh, all AI literacy is prompting. And so because I had very respectfully said, is it okay if I cover X, Y, and Z in class? And they thought it was going to be very short and then realized, wait, there's a whole structure that we follow. It really did become a teaching moment for that faculty member as well. And I think that's something that we can do, especially as teaching librarians, that we have to remember that we're not just teaching the students. Most likely we're going to be teaching the faculty as well when it comes to AI literacy. So because of this, I'm working on doing a lot more faculty specific workshops in probably, I think it's going to be August. Sorry, my thing just pinged at me. In August, I'm actually going to be doing a workshop on various LLMs that are explicitly designed for education, Notebook LLM, for example, Cite, and talking about how those could be used in the classroom and how they can be adapted for different learning styles versus just saying use GPT. We're going to be having more conversations on the ethics of AI usage in the classroom and talking more about FERPA, and I'll be working more with teaching effectiveness on that. And I'm told that I am on call for any teaching effectiveness needs with that. So one thing that I know that this is the phrase I keep hearing over and over is this is the Wild West. But as librarians, I think one of the big things that we can do is we can be in the room where it happens. And we have to be very assertive with this. So I'm the new faculty librarian as of this year. And I was very assertive saying, I know what we're talking about and bringing up my knowledge over and over. And every time I'd hear AI, I was very politely assertive in making sure I brought myself into the conversation and being aware of the fact that, and I knew that AI literacy is now part of accreditation for middle states, which I don't know if all PA schools are part of middle states, but if you are and you're coming up for accreditation, you're going to have to think about that. So I can now tie it back to middle states accreditation over and over and over. And that actually works really, really, really well. And so I can join the committees and I can volunteer for committees to be in the room where it happens. And yes, I have the Hamilton song stuck in my head now because of that. But making sure that I'm always advocating for AI literacy and reminding people this is part of accreditation, probably going forward for who knows how long. That AI literacy is more than just effective prompting. There's so much more part of it. I'm also really, because of that, I'm also a big proponent of politely talking to faculty and saying, okay, well, you asked me to come and show students how to prompt, but they can find that online. Let's make this into a learning session and practice with that and really trying to make it into a pedagogical teaching moment versus just a how to prompt. Because yes, they're going to need to know how to prompt when they go into the workforce, but they can learn that very easily. What they can't learn are the skills to effectively evaluate the material that comes from the AI source. And then working with teaching effectiveness, I'm very lucky that the head of our teaching effectiveness is slightly overworked, so he's so happy for people to volunteer to help. But working with these faculty groups to have one-off workshops. And what seems to be the case from the literature is having one-off workshops or short little bites seems to be most helpful. There was a study done in which I think it was a semester long type learning module where faculty were supposed to kind of keep up with it. And by the end of the semester, faculty had very much zoned out. There was no real buy into it. But having these one off sessions that are very meaningful and very targeted, the literature seems to suggest really is helpful. And from what I've seen, it's also very helpful. So knowing faculty are struggling with using AI checkers, okay, this was targeted and we could accomplish a good bit within that time period. And then making sure resources are easily available. So I had faculty email me say, hey, I can't make the panel. What can I do? And I said, well, we're going to record it. We'll send it out just like we do for these types of workshops. So making sure that these resources are easily available, or making sure that if a faculty member asks for something, it is very easily available. And then always we have to keep learning, which is, I don't know about you guys, sometimes I feel very overwhelmed and that I spend about an hour plus of my daily workflow, my daily routine, keeping up with new trends in AI, which can be very frustrating and tiring. But I think it's something that we do have to do, because if we want to be in the room where it happens and to advocate for the literacy aspect, not for the how-to aspect, not for the prompting aspect, for the literacy aspect, we have to keep up with the current trends and keep up with what's being published in peer review, but also what's being published in the news articles. And one of the things that I've noticed that has been one of the most helpful things is I can send different faculty members recent news articles. So, for example, what was it? Various schools are currently banning, what was it? So, there's a K-12 school district, I think it's in New York, where they're allowing faculty members to use AI in order to do like lesson plans, but they cannot use AI for teaching, sorry, for grading. And so when we were writing our AI guidelines, I sent this to the head of teaching effectiveness. And he went, thank you so much. I can now use to help justify our no grading policy. And it was just a news article. But a lot of what I've been doing and a lot of the conversations I've had, I've been able to say, oh, did you see in the news, in the New York Times or on CNN, the Wall Street Journal, just these news articles about how AI is being used or how it's evolving really helps with those one-on-one faculty conversations versus, oh, well, I read this article, this peer-reviewed article. It helps in my mind with that flow. So I know everyone's tired. It's the end of the semester, so short, sweet, to the point.